With knowledge of
No,
where
of
the
course
money
not.
is and what's
we
in
don't
the
have any
budget.
staff. I mean,
So there's the problem,
I've learned
I
a
think.
lot from the first
Right?
year that I got on. The first year I kept my mouth shut because I didn't know anything.
What?
Frankly, well, I didn't. Well, I didn't know much. I mean, I won't go
And kept
so
your
far
mouth
as to
shut,
say
the part that I
went-
was astounded at.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't keep my mouth shut, but I didn't know what I was talking about.
Okay,
Let's
all
put
right.
it that way.
Okay, we'll take
and
that.
even that is tough to
Yes.
deal with. But frankly, that's the way it was. I mean, it's pretty overwhelming when you face the first budget, and the city manager tells you essentially, this is my budget, but I don't want it. It's time for you to change it. But the changes that you can make are very limited because you don't even understand the process at that point when you're first on the council in the first place. Later, as you learn how to deal with the budget, you also learn that there's a continuing pressure on the city council from the city manager's office to not change the way things are because you get these arguments that, well, you can't do it that way. These expenses are in particularly defined budgets and so on. You can't move them around. We don't have that kind of flexibility, so on and so forth.
Right.
Not sure that's true.
Some
but
of that is true.
Some of it is
Yeah.
true.
Didn't you write a story about an allowance that Bill gives them, Mr. Watkins?
They're
the city-
discretionary.
That's their
that
allowance,
has
right?
increased.
Yeah.
So that went up, but there, it seemed to me there was something in that, if I remember right, that said that if that was saying that, well, if you want to restore cuts to these other programs, you'll have to take it from your discretionary
I've heard
fund.
it's a zero-sum
It's a
game,
zero-sum game. Yeah, that's the
right?
favorite
Why-
I've heard
phrase
this
of.
thing.
Why is that good?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's
Some would
true.
argue it's not.
Bill suggested this year we have 100, and he's saying, look at this. This in a budget season that's very constrained. We gave you more money. Last year you had $75,000 or $80,000. This year you're going to have under $75,000.
Where's the evidence that it's constrained, though? I'm not seeing any evidence that it is
Well,
constrained.
the
I mean,
evidence
you
that's
can hear it.
constrained has to do with sales tax revenues, which is what we're dependent
But if there's money under all the rocks out in the yard,
well, I don't know.
do you
about the
need?
rocks.
I mean,
The problem is
are
not
you
the
constrained?
money in the rocks. The problem is that money doesn't grow on trees. And that's the harsh reality, and that's why it's a zero-sum game.
yeah, no, it doesn't.
Because
It doesn't
if you
grow on
take
trees. It
something-
hides under rocks.
No, if you
So
take it away from
you
something,
know.
then it has to be.
But
There has to be an offset
let me
somewhere.
offer something to
Okay.
you. I offered the idea, and several of us on the city council offered the idea that okay, this is a zero-sum game. We don't have any more money. We can't raise taxes, nor probably do we want to, and so on. And we can't. Are no other revenue sources. So it seems to me that sometimes your priorities shift, and that is they probably shifted a little bit away from Parks and Rec, and they shifted towards, and we'll get to this, I hope, before this thing is over, to crime and some other issues,
Right.
because we are now a city of 100,000, actually. I just saw some census figures that the 2006 to 2007 figures were something like 96,000, and they got up to about 99,000, and now at a 2.5% increase, which is the customary average increase, we're probably over 100,000 right now.
Well, I think somebody had a baby down at Boone Hospital
Which
tonight.
is going to
That would do
cost
it.
us a ton of money in
Right.
terms of water quality stuff and all kinds of other stuff. Now that we've gotten to that
You've hit
level.
the threshold.
Yes.
That's right.
So we're having a real problem these days now with a zero-sum game. And I suggested, and several other people suggested, that maybe we ought to just take a 0.5% or a 1/4% or a half, I don't know what the numbers are, percent cut off the top dogs, the big dogs departments. Public Works, Water and Light, Parks. We can't do it off of the police department and so on. And we were told that that's impossible. You can't do that. These things are spoken for.
Well, you
can't
just
work
wanted
it
that as
way.
discretionary.
Yeah, well, to take some of those monies from the big departments and give them to the little departments, which would make a bigger difference. We were told we couldn't do that. I don't know exactly how that. I'm not yet that sophisticated, but I'm finding out very rapidly whether or not that's a bunch of baloney or not.
Well, why isn't there a rock out in the yard for you?
Well, I haven't, because I don't have the
Because
staff.
there's a
to-
rock out in the yard for
Frankly,
you know, the pay increases for senior level staff. And,
You know, no
you know,
offense,
the
but I don't have a
garage.
lot of time wandering out in the yard to find rocks,
well,
and I
then-
don't have any staff to be
Well,
able
then
to.
you
to
then you
turn
need
these
some
rocks
you
up.
need some rock finders, buddy. And yeah, I got and that garage. That just seems like an overwhelming priority.
Well,
to me.
that's an interesting.
Well, that's one of those
That's an
examples of
interesting idea.
it's all within itself. So if it's generating the revenue, then that parking utility
Well,
gets
you
to
can,
spend it.
but you can
and you
make
can't
those
take it
kinds of
from it.
arguments for all kinds of things, and you know that doesn't make them priorities. It makes them kind of project picks, but not necessarily priorities. I mean, when you've got the Tiger Hotel sitting downtown vacant, and that could do a whole lot of good things for the city. There's a ton of arguments that could be made for a private-public partnership for that. Yet nothing's ever happened with that. But yet you see a project like this going down for $15 million, and then $2 million here, a couple million there. Council gets $175,000. It just, I'm just John Q. voter out here. This doesn't add up to me. I'm sorry.
Well, and what are we going to use that $175,000 for? Are we going to take
I guess you're going to
$80,000
rescue Pac-1 Towers,
Well, that's
right?
what I'm saying.
I mean,
and then
does
what
that
does
seem
that
right?
mean? What does that mean?
But
I
Karl,
don't know.
You haven't relinquished control over that budget, just because some of it is less than completely discretionary doesn't mean that you don't have control over that budget. You're still a
believe
member
me,
of the city
this
council.
is going to be a hell of a budget.
Oh,
fight.
I am sure.
I
I
mean, this
fully
is-
expect that. I have
I'm
told
really
people who
looking
have
forward to
business
this.
to take down there, do not go during the month of August and September.
It's the
because-
goofy season.
Yeah,
I mean,
and it's gonna
everybody's
be
lining
tough.
up with their hat in hand and so on and so forth.
Right.
What's the situation with the block grants? I noticed Paul rightly,
That's
I
an
believe, brought
interesting-
up the
it's
fact
an
that
interesting idea.
as I have long maintained, the city should not be spending
There-
federal block grants on basic city infrastructure. And he kind of got tamped down
No, we
a
didn't.
little bit.
No, we didn't really. What it amounted
like
to?
it.
Well, yeah.
She reported
to
it.
the uninitiated. It might seem
all right.
like it. I mean, the people that raise these questions, I think, eventually, that have good ideas, come back. I mean, they're kind of reborn. This is one of those good ideas. And Paul, to his credit, raised the issue of CDBG money.
Community Development
Yeah,
Block Grant.
block
right?
grant
Yeah.
money spent on roads, which has been a custom in the past. I mean, it's been
It
the way
is.
that we have dealt with that because
Kind of
the
unique
ar-
to Columbia.
Yeah, and the argument is that this is kind of an entitlement to some degree. We can get some roads improved in areas of town that would normally have to compete with other areas of town, which more of a constituency to drive the competition. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's
So
a
that we can get some
unique
road
argument.
improvements made. But the downside of it is, if you spend the money in roads and infrastructure, you have less leftovers for social programs.
Or for housing.
Or for any
Or
of the,
for economic
any
development.
of those
because
other
all of
any of
those
those other
issues
kinds of
Right.
issues.
are eligible for
That's exactly
CDBG
right.
funds.
That's exactly right.
Even Pat Kelly brought up the idea of street lighting and
And-
landscaping, things like that,
and-
to really make the neighborhood look
And
better.
Paul raised the issue, rightly, I think, that we ought to reconsider the numbers that we set in terms of the percentages, how much you can spend for the infrastructure and how much you can spend for the social services. And we ought to shift it towards social services and away from infrastructure. And he has a point. And I suspect, and Jerry came to his assistants essentially and said, well, this is going to be decided year after year, and we have to make these decisions to set these limits. I suspect that those limits will be changed because I think there is an increasing sensitivity to shift towards a little bit more towards social services and away from the infrastructure, because infrastructure can be paid for by going out to the public with hat in hand and getting bonds every few years.
Right.
And that's how you do that. I mean, I have some questions about how they decide what the priorities are, obviously. I mean, I've been talking Ballinger Road till the cows come home, and I will do so till the cows come home.
Yeah,
So-
They just won't be coming down Bellinger Lane.
So where do you think the tax billing issue of that with the city's policy plays into that? Because not all roads that are improved are tax billed,
No,
as someone else
there's been
pointed
more and
out.
more
but-
forgiveness for tax billing, I think, along the lines. I mean, there's been less involvement in the folks actually paying the bucks to get their roads improved. There is a contribution, but it's less of a contribution. The city is seeing this as an across-the-board improvement.